So on average, each American consumes about 270 pounds of meat every year, which is about equivalent to if everyone had a quarter pounder for every meal every day for a year. So what I want to talk about today is the impact that consuming meat has on our health and also the environment. So although meat contributes to essential nutrients to our diet, it also has negative effects on our health. It increases the likelihood of heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. A British medical journal study wanted to investigate the health differences between a vegetarian and more traditional diets. They examined the mortality rates from over a 12-year span between the two groups. Their conclusion was a 40% reduction in cancer mortality, as well as reduction in mortality from other diseases. As well as this, livestock production also needs a lot of resources, particularly food and water. The environmental health perspectives did a study that concluded that cattle were the most inefficient in their energy conversion. They need 7 kilograms of grain to produce 1 kilogram of beef. They also require a lot of water, not only for the cattle themselves, but for the food that they need to feed them. And beef production requires as much as 100 times more water than the equivalent amount of protein energy that come from the grains alone. And one of the biggest impacts that livestock have is the animal waste that they produce. The United States Department of Agriculture estimated that animals in the U.S. Meat industry produced around 1.4 billion tons of waste in 1997. And that was about equivalent to 5 tons for every U.S. citizen. And with all this waste that the animals produce, two harmful greenhouse gases are emitted to the atmosphere, two of the big ones are methane and nitrous oxide, which are very potent and harmful to the environment. And a study that was published by Science Direct stated that gas emissions from livestock equate to 20% of global emissions that happen today. And so one of the easiest solutions that we could all do is eating less meat in our diet. It could improve our health overall, reduce our risk for heart disease, diabetes, and cancer, mostly to lower the intake of saturated fats and cholesterol. This could also help conserve resources like water and food, as well as reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And so what would this change look like? By the same study by Science Direct, current global average meat consumption is around 100 grams of meat per person per day. And in order to stabilize emissions from the agriculture sector, they propose that we would need to reduce that number to 90 grams per person per day, or a 10% reduction. And so to make them more relevant to all of us here, I'll take the 270 pounds per person per day that I mentioned earlier in my talk, and divide that by 365, and multiply that by the 10% to get 0.074 pounds meat per day per person that would need to be reduced in order to stabilize the emissions that come from the agriculture sector, which is equivalent to about a half a pound of meat every week, or a meal a week without any meat included in it, which isn't really a lot, and I think a lot of us here would be able to manage that. And so knowing this, I wanted to challenge all of you to think about all the impact that you have on your health and the environment when you have your next meal. Thank you.